Look, I'm going to be straight with you right from the start. I blew through $23,000 on survival gear. $23,000. Gone. And the brutal reality? About $21,620 of that was dead weight. Completely, embarrassingly useless junk that sat in bins, took up shelf space, and never once got used when I actually needed it. I'm not proud of it. But I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen either, because that mistake is exactly what makes everything I'm about to tell you worth listening to. I've done the dumb thing so you don't have to. Here's what I found out after years of testing, failing, and testing again in genuinely horrible conditions. You don't need a storage unit full of tactical nonsense. You need 7 things. 7. And the whole setup cost you less than $400. Not $2,000. Not $10,000. Under $400. That's what this is about. No fluff, no gear bro fantasy, just the stuff that actually keeps you breathing when things get ugly. Let's go through it. 1. Water filtration. Stop buying the wrong filter. Water is the first thing that kills you. Not dramatic injuries, not predators, not the cold, dehydration and waterborne illness. You've got maybe 3 days without water before your body starts shutting down. And in a real survival situation, that clock starts the moment things go sideways. Now, every beginner's list you find online will tell you to grab the Sawyer Mini. It's cheap, it's compact, it looks great in photos, and survivalists have been recommending it for years. Here's the problem. I used mine hard for 6 days. 6. And it clogged up so badly it became functionally useless. Flow rate dropped to nothing. I was squeezing with both hands just to get a trickle. That's not a filter. That's a stress toy. The Sawyer Squeeze is a completely different story. On a practical level, it filtered a full liter of water in roughly 35 seconds during testing. The Mini? That same liter took over a minute and a half. You might think, okay, a minute difference, who cares? But when you're dehydrated, exhausted, and cold, that difference matters more than you'd think. And when you multiply that across a full day of hydration needs, the Squeeze is just flat out better. But here's the move that takes a good filter and makes it bulletproof. Add a cheap cotton bandana as a pre-filter. Before water even touches your Squeeze, run it through the bandana to catch sediment, debris, and particulates. This single habit dramatically extends the filter's lifespan. I ran my Squeeze through 34 straight days of field use, including murky creek water, stagnant pools, and sediment-heavy sources, and it kept flowing clean. 34 days. Not 6. Cost for the Sawyer Squeeze? $50. Add a couple dollars for a basic bandana and you're done. This is the foundation of your kit because without clean water, nothing else matters. 2. Fire starting. 3 things, not one expensive gadget. The survival industry loves to sell you a $60 tactical fire starter. It looks incredible on a shelf. It performs terribly in the rain, with cold hands, under stress, when the stakes are real. Here's what actually works, and it's embarrassingly simple. 3 Bic lighters. A quality ferro rod. DIY tinder made from cotton balls soaked in petroleum jelly. That's it. That's the whole system. Bic lighters are reliable workhorses. They're cheap, they're consistent, and having 3 means redundancy without adding weight or cost. The reason I carry a ferro rod alongside them is simple. Lighters fail in extreme cold. The gas doesn't vaporize properly below a certain temperature, and your flame disappears. A ferro rod doesn't care how cold it is. It doesn't care that it's been underwater. It produces hot sparks on demand as long as you have a sharp 90-degree striker to scrape it with properly. The geometry of the striker matters more than most people realize. A 90-degree angle against the rod produces noticeably larger, hotter sparks compared to a rounded or worn striker. In wet conditions, that temperature difference is the gap between a fire and hypothermia. And the tinder? Make your own. Cotton balls soaked in petroleum jelly are objectively one of the best fire-starting materials that exist. They catch from a single spark. They burn for several minutes. They're waterproof. And they cost almost nothing. Make a batch, stuff them in a small Ziploc bag, and you've got tinder that will work in conditions that would defeat store-bought fire cubes. Total cost for a fire kit that has produced over 200 successful fires across wet, cold, and otherwise hostile conditions? Under $40. Compare that to the $60 tactical starter collecting dust in a drawer somewhere. 3. Rope and cordage. Paracord is only useful if you actually have it. Here's a point that doesn't get talked about enough. Paracord is one of the most versatile survival tools you can carry, but most people carry it in the dumbest possible way. Paracord bracelets. Everyone's wearing them. They look cool. They're marketed as 550 feet of survival cord in bracelet form, which is a lie, by the way. A typical paracord bracelet gives you maybe 8 to 12 feet of cord when fully unraveled, and more importantly, try unraveling one when your hands are cold, shaking, and you're under stress. It takes 5 minutes of frustrating fumbling with a tiny knot that you need a fingernail to loosen. That's not a survival tool. That's decorative. What you actually want is 100 feet of genuine 550 paracord on a simple spool, or wrapped in a loose coil. Real 550 paracord has 7 interior strands, each of which can be removed individually for finer tasks like fishing line, suturing in emergencies, or building snares. The outer sheath itself has dozens of uses, and having it in a usable form, not wrapped around your wrist in a bracelet puzzle, means you can deploy it in under 30 seconds. What can you do with it? Shelter rigging, clothesline for wet gear, bear hang for food storage, lashing tools and branches together, replacing broken bootlaces, tourniquet backup, tripwire for camp security. The list goes on. Cost for 100 feet of quality 550 paracord, around $10. Skip the bracelet entirely. Hey, if you're finding this useful, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. It genuinely helps more people find content like this. 4. Cutting tools. Expensive doesn't mean durable. Let's talk knives, because this category is where the survival industry most aggressively separates people from their money. I spent $180 on a tactical knife that a gear reviewer called indestructible. It broke in 4 days of real use. Not abuse. Actual utility tasks. Betoning wood, food prep, cutting rope, general camp work. Day 4. The tip snapped during a betoning session. $180. Gone. The Maracniv Companion, a $15 knife made in Sweden from recycled stainless steel, has now clocked over 300 hours of hard use in my hands. Same tasks. Same conditions. The blade holds an edge exceptionally well, and when it does need sharpening, a basic field stone brings it right back. The handle is grippy, the sheath is functional, and it's light enough that you forget you're carrying it. The lesson here isn't that expensive knives are always bad. It's that price is not a reliable indicator of performance in field conditions, and the Morak knife punches so far above its price point that most tactical knives look embarrassing next to it. Now, there's one cutting task a fixed blade knife handles poorly: processing larger diameter wood for shelter poles and firewood. For that, you need a folding saw. A Baco folding saw at around $25 will cut through branches and small logs with a fraction of the effort required by a knife. It folds safely, weighs almost nothing, and doesn't require batoning, which is hard on a blade and hard on your energy reserves. 2 tools, a $15 knife and a $25 saw. Total, $40. Better than any $200 piece of gear I've ever tested for actual utility work. 5. Shelter. The tarp beats the tent every single time in survival scenarios. I used to own a $400 backpacking tent. It was beautiful. It was also an absolute nightmare to actually use in real conditions. Setup time, 45 minutes when you're learning the pole system. Even with practice, 20 minutes minimum. In the dark, in the rain, when you're cold and your fine motor skills are compromised, forget it. And wind. That tent would flex and shake in any serious wind until I was convinced it would collapse entirely. One night, a moderate storm genuinely shredded one of the fly attachments. Here's the reality. In a survival situation, you need shelter fast. Not shelter in 45 minutes. Fast. A 10x10 tarp, a length of paracord, and a foam sleeping pad. That's the system. The tarp costs around $35. Not a fancy Silnylon ultralight tarp. a basic heavy-duty poly tarp from a hardware store. You can rig an A-frame shelter configuration in under 10 minutes with paracord and 2 trees, or use trekking poles if you have them. An A-frame sheds rain, cuts wind, and provides a covered sleeping area that's actually functional. The foam pad at $50 matters more than most people realize. Ground insulation is critical. The ground pulls heat from your body far faster than cold air does because of conduction. An inflatable sleeping pad is better for backpacking, but a closed-cell foam pad doesn't puncture, doesn't need to be inflated with what little energy you have, and works even when wet. It's also practically indestructible. This shelter system works in rain, works in snow, works in heat as a shade structure. Total cost, $100. And it goes up in under 10 minutes every time. 6. Navigation. Your phone will die, and then you're truly lost. This is a point that gets skipped in most survival gear lists, and it's a mistake. Your phone is not a navigation tool in a survival scenario. The battery drains fast when you're running GPS. Signal disappears in remote areas. One drop or one dunking in a creek, and it's gone. Relying on your phone for navigation is the same as relying on a tool that has multiple known failure points. A liquid-filled baseplate compass costs $15 to $25 and has 0 failure points. No batteries, no signal requirement, nothing to break except the housing, and even a cracked housing usually leaves the compass functional. Combined with a basic topographic map of your area, which you can print at home, for almost nothing you have a navigation system that will work in any condition, anywhere, indefinitely. The skill component matters here more than the tool does. A compass is useless if you don't know how to take a bearing, account for magnetic declination, and triangulate your position. The good news is that basic compass navigation is not complicated. A couple of hours of practice in a familiar area will give you the foundational skills to use it effectively in the field. But even before skill comes a simple habit. Always know what direction your car, camp, or road is from where you are. That alone prevents most people from becoming genuinely lost. Total cost for compass plus map? Under $25. Add it to your kit without question. 7. Light. Tactical flashlights are a scam. Here's why. I bought a $95 tactical flashlight because it was marketed as military grade, and the product page was extremely convincing. It lasted about 2 hours on high before the battery died, and on low it gave maybe 6 hours. Bright? Absolutely. Useful in an extended situation? Not even close. The Petzl Tika headlamp runs around $20 to $30 depending on the model and retailer. On its lowest setting, it delivers over 100 hours of runtime. Some versions push to 120 hours. That's not a typo. Over 100 hours from a set of AAA batteries. Now think about what that means practically. 5 days of darkness at 8 hours per night is 40 hours. That headlamp has you covered twice over on a single battery set, and you can carry a spare set of batteries for virtually nothing. More importantly, it's hands-free. This sounds like a minor feature until you've tried to set up a tarp, cook food, treat an injury, or do literally anything useful in the dark while holding a flashlight. Hands-free lighting transforms what you can actually accomplish after dark. It's not a luxury. It's a genuine functional upgrade. Add a set of backup batteries, maybe 5 hours, and your total lighting investment is $30. That 95-watt tactical flashlight is sitting in a junk drawer somewhere. The Petzl is in the kit. Quick pause. If this is helping you think differently about gear, hit that like button and subscribe. More honest content like this coming regularly. 8. Medical. Pre-made first aid kits are mostly garbage. Walk into any outdoor store, grab a pre-packaged first aid kit off the shelf, and open it up. What you'll find is mostly tiny adhesive bandages, a few alcohol wipes, and maybe a pair of tweezers. It's a kit designed for paper cuts and splinters. It is not a kit designed for the actual injuries that happen in survival situations. Real injuries look like deep lacerations from a slipped knife, a badly sprained ankle on uneven terrain, blisters that have progressed to open wounds and are now infected, burns from a fire that got out of hand. These require real supplies, not a stack of Band-Aids in a cheerful red pouch. Build your own kit. Here's exactly what to put in it. Gauze pads in multiple sizes handle serious wound management. Medical tape keeps dressings in place. Antibiotic ointment prevents infection in wounds you can't get to a doctor for days. Ibuprofen addresses pain and inflammation, which matters because untreated pain degrades your judgment and decision-making. An elastic bandage wraps sprains and provides compression for swelling. Moleskin, the blister prevention material, is one of the most underrated additions you can make because a bad blister on your foot in a survival situation can genuinely become incapacitating. The total cost to build this functional kit from scratch at a pharmacy? About $31. It will fit in a quart-sized Ziploc bag. It will address real injuries. And it won't have 40 tiny bandages that help with absolutely nothing you'll actually encounter. 9. Signaling. The most overlooked part of every kit. Here's the reality most survival guides dance around. In most scenarios, your primary goal isn't to survive indefinitely in the wilderness. It's to get found. Rescue ends the situation. Rescue gets you home. And you can't get rescued if rescuers can't locate you. Signaling is how you make yourself findable. And it's the most neglected category in most people's kits. 3 tools. That's all you need. A signal mirror is capable of reflecting sunlight that can be seen from over 10 miles away in good conditions. Some accounts from search and rescue operations put that number at up to 25 miles in optimal conditions. A mirror weighs nothing, costs around $8, and never runs out of batteries. The technique takes about 5 minutes to learn. It is one of the most effective long-range signaling methods that exists, and almost nobody carries one. A Fox 40 whistle can be heard from half a mile away, further in quiet conditions, and requires almost no energy to use. When you're injured, exhausted, or stuck in terrain where moving is dangerous, a whistle lets you signal for help continuously, without expending effort you can't afford. It costs about $7. There is no reason not to have one. Finally, a bright orange bandana. Visibility from the air or from distance is critical for ground-to-air signaling, and a high-visibility orange bandana laid in a clearing or on a rock face makes you dramatically easier to spot. Beyond that, an orange bandana functions as an emergency bandage, a water pre-filter, a trail marker, a face covering in dusty conditions, and a dozen other utility applications. It's $4. Total signaling kit cost, $19. This category could genuinely be the difference between rescue in hours and rescue in days, or not at all. 10. Food procurement. You can't always pack enough. Most survival kits ignore food procurement entirely, operating on the assumption that you'll carry everything you need. That assumption breaks down fast in extended scenarios. A basic snare wire kit, about $8 worth of hardware wire, and a small fishing kit, hooks, line, and a few weight for around $10, together give you the ability to passively source food in almost any wilderness environment. Snares work while you sleep. Fishing requires minimal energy. Neither requires you to expend calories hunting actively. The skill component matters here. Know 3 or 4 basic snare configurations before you need them. Practice setting them at home. Learn the fish species in your area and what they bite on. Because a fishing kit with 0 skill behind it catches nothing, and a snare set incorrectly catches nothing. But food procurement tools weigh almost nothing and cost almost nothing. And in a scenario that extends beyond 48 to 72 hours, they become genuinely important. Your body can function without food for considerably longer than it can without water, but caloric deficit degrades your judgment, your physical capability, and your emotional resilience. Passive food sourcing is worth the minimal weight and cost. Total cost, about $18. The complete kit breakdown. Water filtration. Sawyer squeeze plus bandana, $52. Fire starting. 3 Bics, ferro rod, petroleum jelly tinder, $40. Paracord. 100 feet of genuine 550. $10. Cutting tools. Moracniv plus Baco folding saw. $40 shelter, 10x10 tarp, paracord already counted, foam pad, $85, navigation, compass plus printed topo map, $25 light, Petzl headlamp plus spare batteries, $30 medical, custom-built first aid kit, $31 signaling, mirror, Fox, 40 whistle, orange bandana, $19 food procurement, Snare wire plus basic fishing kit, $18 grand total, $350. Not $2,000. Not $5,000. Not $23,000. $350 for a complete, tested, functional survival kit that covers every critical category. Seriously though, if you've made it this far and you found value here, like this video and subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it genuinely helps the channel grow so we can keep making honest content like this. What to stop buying immediately? All-in-one survival kits with branded packaging are almost universally terrible. The economics don't work in your favor. Manufacturers fill those kits with cheap components because the margin on each individual item is thin, and they make it up on volume. The knife in a $70 survival kit is not a $30 knife. It's a $4 knife in a box designed to look like a $30 knife. Paracord bracelets, as discussed, are decorative objects dressed up as survival gear. The paracord is real. The utility is not. High-end water filters priced at $300 to $450 offer marginal performance improvements over the $50 Sawyer squeeze that will never matter in a real-world scenario. If you're filtering through glacial silt or heavily chemical-contaminated water, that's a conversation. For 99% of survival situations involving natural water sources, the squeeze handles it. Tactical anything that isn't actually tactical. The word tactical on a product is a marketing signal, not a quality signal. It means the price went up. It doesn't mean the product got better. The most important point in this entire video: gear matters. The right gear matters. But your gear is only as good as your ability to actually use it, and that ability comes from one thing: practice. Every single item in this kit needs to be used before you actually need it. Rig the tarp in your backyard on a clear afternoon, and then rig it again in the rain. Start a fire with the ferro rod on a calm day, then try it in wind, then try it with wet tinder. Use the compass to navigate to a specific point and back. Filter water from a stream or a pond before any emergency forces you to figure it out on the fly. Mistakes made in practice are free. Mistakes made in the field have consequences. The gap between having gear and being able to use gear is closed by one thing, and it's not spending more money. It's practice. Deliberate, regular, honest practice where you push the gear to its limits and push your own skills to their limits. The $23,000 I spent didn't make me more prepared. The hours I spent using, breaking, and understanding the $350 kit did. Skills outlast gear. Knowledge outlasts equipment. The person who can start a fire with 3 rocks and dry grass in a downpour is more prepared than the person who spent $2,000 on a kit they've never opened. Buy less. Practice more. Stay honest about what you actually know how to do. That's the whole thing. Simple, reliable, tested gear plus practiced skills equals actual preparedness. Not impressive gear storage. Not a room full of tactical equipment. Just the right tools, used often enough that they become second nature. Stay safe out there, and go test your kit.